What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today PFF dropped their final 7-round mock draft. So if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It's going to be a crazy video, so I'm going to just jump right into it. We do have a brand new sponsor of the channel. It is Underdog Fantasy. If you guys do follow Broshmo, you guys probably heard about it plenty of times. It is a daily fantasy site, so for people like me who live in Texas, it's something that is legal that you can use for sports betting. And if you guys use the code Alex or Hail Mary, you guys can get a match of $10 to $100 when you deposit for the first time. You guys also give me $50 by doing that. So if you want to show a little bit of love, feel free to do that because I know y'all love me. Let's get right into this. Let's have some fun. We're breaking down every single pick. I have not seen this. This is a live reaction. And you guys can see this roster of dudes who picked for each of the teams, which that sounds absolutely awesome. I wish they did a live stream of doing this. But Panthers go Bryce Young. There's a crazy shift in the betting odds for Will Levis. Heard that was a Reddit that did that, but I don't think a Reddit thread would legitimately push these bigger sports books to do that. Like, that just doesn't make any sense if it was illegitimate. But regardless, I still think Bryce Young is going to be the number one dude. It's 20 to 1 odds for Will Levis, and I pray to God that that is not going to end up being the pick for you guys. But Carolina Panthers going Bryce Young. Best move. Texans going AR. If they want to go a QB, it'd be a surprise because Trey Lance didn't really work out there in San Fran. Would be surprised to see D'Amico and that whole entire organization try to take another test on an athletic freak over someone who's a little bit more stable and also does not fit the betting odds. Tennessee Titans going CJ Stroud by a trade up. I think that's perfectly fine. We might see him drop. Somebody said that the S2 scores that were leaked might have been incorrect. I'm going to believe that they're correct until I'm proven otherwise. There are genuine concerns about his processing, and something that did bother me a little bit. Even versus his great game versus Georgia, he was still forcing certain routes that were obviously not open, and to me that does worry me. But I think Tennessee would be far better off with CJ Stroud. Obviously, we get to see that they do not send a next year first round pick. I'd be pissed off if I were Arizona. I'd prefer taking the third round pick from Tennessee in their 2024 first because I necessarily don't think they're going to be that good. Anyways, pushing on Colts Will Levis. There you go. Quarterback, top 4 picks. Seahawks going Jalen Carter. I would rather go Will Anderson myself just because there's less question marks there. The Lions get Will Anderson, which is an A-plus move. Raiders, Devon Witherspoon or Devin Witherspoon. He's a great player. You're going to pair up with Nate Hobbs there. Illinois alumni. Love that for him, and he's a really, really good work ethic dude, so I think that he's going to be perfectly fine there in Vegas. Falcons in going Tyree. I love it. Big fan of that. Bears going Lucas Van Ness. I think that would be a mistake. You probably should go offensive line there. Edge rusher is deep in this class. Offensive line is not, and I still think you guys should be addressing that right tackle spot. Eagles going Christian Gonzalez. I don't think DB3 needs to be the move at 10. I mean, you can get a legitimate rotational edge rusher, defensive interior, but at 10, it's a little bit risky if you're not going Jalen Carter. And then Bijan, love that offensive line. I think offensive line or Bijan is where they're going to actually end up going, but we'll see about that. Cardinals going Skoronski. If that's the case, that's a great move for them because he can also fit at guard. Kind of a Josh Jones thing all over again. Texans JSN. Weird that you go JSN but not go after CJ earlier, but it is what it is. Green Bay Packers, Quentin Johnston. If they moved ahead, I feel like this would then be a defensive position. I just doubt that they're going to go after Quentin. I think it's a really good idea, and I still think that Christian Watson and Quentin Johnston would be a nice duo. I just highly doubt that would be the case. Patriots JPJ, I love that for them. JPJ is my number 2 player on my board. I'm still updating this, so there will be some final changes before tomorrow, which will be the final display of it. Jets going Paris Johnson is incredible value. Commanders going Broderick Jones. I get it. You have some older tackles, and you're at 16, and you will get somebody that the NFL sees very highly. Also can kick him to guard because he is 6'4", and Georgia trains all their dudes to be really flexible. Steelers going Darnell Wright. I think that's a great move for them. I just don't believe there's probably going to be a tackle there at 32 the way that this draft is falling. Detroit Lions going Brian Branch. Intriguing because I think he fits the same role as Chauncey, but that's a longer term pick, and I'm not going to complain too much about it. Buccaneers going Anton Harrison, which is what I would have wanted the Steelers to get at 32 if they didn't go a DB or didn't go a tackle there. So hallelujah. I think that's a great move. Nolan Smith to the Seahawks. There you go. You got that pairing, and I think that's a great pairing. I honestly would be perfectly happy with that over going after someone like, Mozzie Smith and Will Anderson. I'd prefer Jalen Carter if he pans out as well as Nolan Smith. Charge going Deontay Banks. Don't think that's a bad pick. Getting Herbert weapons is a great idea, but we'll see what they do with the rest of the draft. Raiders going Kalijah. What the hell? What happened with the Raiders pick? How the hell did this happen? They send all of those picks to move up. All right. That is, I don't know how that adds up value-wise, but I'm not too much of a fan of that move up. I'm going to be honest. I think the Raiders need both quality and quantity, and losing those 2 3rd/4th round picks, that's a little bit much, and I honestly think it's a little bit thin for the Ravens to move back that far, but we'll see what happens there. Vikings going Jordan Addison. I think that's perfectly fine. Not going to complain about that at all. Jaguars Miles Murphy. He's literally training with Travon Walker. That's going to be a great fit. You already have chemistry there. Bengals moving up for Bijan. I think the Giants and the Bengals would be pretty happy about this because the Bengals get their star running back and the Giants do not get to see Bijan fall to the Cowboys, who select Dalton Kincaid, which is a great selection. I know you have 2 serviceable tight ends, but this is a team that is built on being high-powered on the offense and has been very tight end forward for a hot minute. So without Dalton Schultz, I think Dalton Kincaid would be a great addition. Bills, Zay Flowers. I just got eaten alive for taking a wide receiver to the Bills the other day. I think this is an excellent selection, and you can never have too many weapons in the NFL. Isaiah McKenzie even had a pretty solid role there, and I think Zay Flowers is a much better version of that. New York Giants going Forbes here. I think that's perfectly fine if you wanted to take him at 26, and you get to take him here at 25, and now at 28. That's perfectly fine. If Emmanuel Forbes puts on weight, that's going to be incredible. He was my number 2 DB before weighing 166. Saints going Brian Breezy. Seems to be almost written in stone. I would look out for Adebawore here because they love their dudes with a lot of athleticism. And Breezy definitely has athleticism, but there's just nobody who's really compared to that man right there in Adebawore. Eagles then going Will McDonald. I think that could be a very, very popular pick. He's been comped to Brian Burns. I said he's 80% of Kayvon Thibodeau, so pretty understandable. Chiefs going B.J. Ojulari to end off the first round. I'm not going to be totally against it. I'd probably want to go DeJuan Jones and just train him up for a year or even start him immediately, but I love B.J. Ojulari. You guys get to see where he is on my board. We'll scroll down there as well. Steelers going Cam Smith. Steelers are my team, hence why I'm definitely more invested in these picks, but I don't like Cam Smith, and I would hope that we get a better defensive back than that. Texans going Mozzie Smith would be an excellent selection. Kind of wish the Steelers did that. Cardinals going Felix. Good value for a very solid high floor player. I just didn't like his inconsistency game to game, but when he's hot, he's absolute menace for sure. Colts then going Josh Downs, getting another weapon there for Will Levis, never a bad thing. Rams going Michael Mayer. If he's there, not going to complain too much. So, it's a good value pick, and this team is still rebuilding, so going best player available is probably the best move for him. First linebacker off the board is Dian Henley. Makes sense because he's right near Seattle. They're at Washington State. Not near. I mean, hell, it's in the middle of freaking nowhere. It's in BFE, but Washington State definitely at least has some proximity. Makes sense why they would go that way. And Dian Henley, he's a solid linebacker. Just haven't really fully gotten onto the hype train. Ravens going Julius Brents makes absolutely no sense to me. He's somebody who doesn't fit at all. He's solid in press, but not good in press man. He's just good in press zone. I just don't trust him at all. I don't trust him to cover a tight end in man coverage, and he proved that versus Alabama. Cam Latu, I'm going to continue bringing it back to that. This dude could not cover Cam Latu on an out route. We're not talking about Cam Latu in the first, or the second, or the third. We might be talking about him on day 3. Just saying. Panthers then going Drew Sanders. I'd prefer Jack Campbell here, but Drew Sanders also could be a really good pass rusher and linebacker, kind of the similar way of Frankie Louvu as an outside linebacker on your squad. New Orleans Saints going to Osiris Torrance. It feels like a Saints pick, which is really weird. I could totally see Osiris being a New Orleans Saint, and I don't know why. It's one of those things where it's ingrained in my mind. So I think it would be perfectly fine. I don't really trust Cesar Ruiz or Andreas Pete in the long run, and I'd prefer to save some money and get Osiris if he's there. Cardinals and going Adebawore, great selection. So pretty sure they went after 2 D linemen here, one of them on the interior and one of them outside. That D line is not looking too great, so glad to see that they're continuing to build it. Packers going Keanu Benton, adding more young defensive interiors to your squad, never a bad idea. Jets, they re-signed their center, so don't know why you need to go John Michael Schmitz, but never going to complain about a team going O-line. Falcons going Joe Tippmann. Yeah, it's fine. I like Joe Tippmann. I'm a little bit lower on him than most, but I know that his upside is there. And Falcons, you do have a really good mentor there in Chris Lindstrom. Green Bay Packers, Sam Laporta. Some people think he's going before Darnell Washington, and Sam Laporta is my tight end 1 starting out the year. I'm probably still going to keep him as my tight end 2. And yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of it. I think he is still my tight end number 2, because tight end number 1 is definitely going to be, where the hell did I put him? There's Dalton Kincaid. So tight end 2, yep, Sam Laporta. So we'll see what happens with that. DeJuan Jones to the Patriots. I think that is very Patriots move, and it's a good value for sure. Commanders going Tyreek Stevenson. Excellent value. I'd prefer, honestly, if they swapped this pick with the Julius Brents one. I think they fit better overall. Lions going Darnell Washington, 6th offensive lineman. I think that's perfectly fine. I know a lot of you guys don't like it. I'm skipping that pick. Y'all know why. I hate Siaki Ika with a passion, and he's going to my Steelers. So the double whammy, Buccaneers going Jahmyr Gibbs, definitely a solid selection, good value there. I'd honestly prefer him to my Steelers. They're well over Siaki Ika. Steve Avila to the Dolphins, great value. Tank Dell to the Seahawks. I like Tank Dell. He's a little bit thin at like 165, but very good route runner, one of the best separators in the class. Chicago Bears going Matt Bergeron. I think that'd be a waste of a pick. I just don't think Matt Bergeron's that great. He has some really good reps in there, but man, this dude just does not know how to refine his handwork. And that could be worked on in the NFL, but man, I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this dude. Just not a huge fan of him. Chargers going Foskey. I think that's nice to see that he's here in the 2nd round, and the Chargers could use a developmental edge rusher for the future. Lions going Jack Campbell is incredible value. Also wish he went to my Steelers. Jaguars going Keely Ringo. I think I did that myself yesterday. Giants going Jalen Hyatt. Getting a nice depth piece. Considered that yesterday as well. Cowboys Derek Hall. You got yourself a nice piece right there. I think he comps very well to Dante Fowler Jr. based on just the feeling I get from his play style. And to be honest, I think that he works really well in this defense. So I do like Derek Hall, probably to this team or the Bears at the earliest, but I'd prefer for them to go a different route than an edge rusher here in the 2nd round. Tuli Tuipulotu going here. I think the Broncos traded with Buffalo. Don't know what the hell happened there, but that is A-okay. I don't like Tuli Tuipulotu that much, but it does feel like a Sean Payton thing to do, to trade up for a player who shouldn't probably go in this range. DJ Turner to the Cardinals. Excellent selection. You don't even have Byron Murphy anymore. Raiders going Hendon Hooker. It's a great value here at 61, and he just adds another piece to that room. Eagles then going Cody Mauch. Yeah, I think that'd be an excellent idea. If you don't want to go after tackle in the 1st, Cody Mauch, if he's here in the 2nd, somebody who could be a short-term guard and then a future starter at tackle. Don't think he has the oomph enough. Like he's kind of a mauler, but I just don't trust him the way that, a lot of these guys like Beef Jurgens was someone who you could trust is going to have enough of oomph to his block. It's almost like it's an intangible quality. Chiefs going Rashi is going to be probably replacing Juju's role. I think that's perfectly fine. Keep him close here to Dallas. Pony up. Chicago Bears then going Luke Whippler. Excellent value. He's one of my top players in the draft. Texans going Isaiah McGuire. Y'all know my love for him. He's going to be rising back up my board a little bit. He had a really shitty offseason, and he was my number 2 player for a significant period of time. I fell in love with him. It's just I don't think he wants to put in the work in the offseason the way he should have. I didn't think he had the commitment that he should have in the offseason to being the best version of himself, and it was pretty obvious at the Senior Bowl and the Combine that he was not at the level that he should have been. Bengals going Luke Musgrave, excellent selection. Bills going Chandler Zavala with a trade back. That's A-okay. Broncos then going Garrett Williams. I like that as well. He was a top 15 player for me before his ACL tear. Rams going Cedric Tillman. They're just loading up on weapons, huh? I mean, they usually ditch O-linemen in the first place until the later rounds, so not out of the realm of possibility. Bears going Tucker Kraft. It's a third-round selection. Don't think that's an awful one at all. Saints then going Zach Charbonnet. I think that's a great combination. I mean, yeah, Kamara might be gone, but still Zach Charbonnet is kind of the addition, like kind of the younger version of Jamal. They did bring him on, but, if he's here at 71, got to show some love for my buddy there. Cardinals and going Sidney Brown. I think that's awesome, especially if you lose out on Buddha. And I think that'd be a great pick. Texans then going Antonio Johnson, keeping these Texas dudes around, huh? So I think that's perfectly fine. Pairing him up with Jalen Pitre would be nice. Cleveland Browns then going Marvin Mims. It's good, versatile speed weapon. Good for them. Falcons then going Jamie Robinson. I don't think they need another safety. It's a little bit early for me. Not early for Jamie, but just a little bit early to take a depth piece at safety. Patriots then going A.T. Perry. I think that's a great selection. Rams then going Darius Rush. I feel like that's going to be a move that they make. I don't think Darius Rush should go in this range. I think he should probably go towards the maybe like the 90 to 100 range, but I don't know if the Rams have a pick in that range, so they could be trying to reach. Trenton Simpson falling to this point is absolute bullshit, but it is what it is. New York Giants get to steal a stud. THT to the Colts, I think that's perfectly fine, but I would prefer for him to be interior than as a boundary, so more of a slot guy. Steelers getting Jordan Battle, getting all my players I do not like in this draft, but it does feel like a Steelers move to replace a mid Terrell Edmonds. Lions in going Michael Wilson, that's great value. He would be graded much higher if he were not injured all the time. Buccaneers going Quay Martin, I like that, good value. Seahawks going Tanner McKee, I like that too. You're sticking to the Pac-12 right now, but they're doing a good job. They start out SEC and then move to the Pac-12. Dolphins going Luke Schoonmaker. It's all right value for Schoon. I don't think he's that great. Chargers going Tyler Scott. He didn't have the speed that I think would warrant a pick like this. Just personally, I don't think he's that good. I'd prefer the kid out of Michigan State and Jaden Reed. Baltimore Ravens, Clark Phillips, incredible value. This dude should still be considered a day 2 pick. He should be considered a round 2 pick above all. Minnesota Vikings going Keon White. Crazy to see that he falls this far because some people think he could go in the first, but I have him listed around that 60 to 70 range. Jaguars and going Gervin Dexter. He has a lot of development that he needs to do, and his personality certainly is up for question, but at least he worked on himself in the offseason. Love to see that. Packers going Anthony Johnson Jr. out of Iowa State. I haven't studied him myself, but DB is always great for the Packers. Cowboys Corey Trice. Also haven't seen all 22 on him, except the times I've seen him in normal game tape, and he's pretty cool. He's a good corner. Definitely worth taking maybe as a late third and developing him into a starter if you have 2 already, which is why I think a team like the Cowboys or the Falcons could do something like that. Bills then going Dorian Williams. It's perfectly fine. He's very athletic, solid in coverage, and that kind of fits the role that you're trying to fill. Bengals going Wanya Morris, kind of the value pick for right tackle. That's perfectly fine. Panthers, Devon A-Chain, incredible value. I love Devon A-Chain. I definitely need to update this because freaking Eli Ricks hasn't been moved yet. But Philadelphia Eagles, Carl Brooks, incredible value. I love that for him. Blake Freeland for the Chiefs, good developmental piece for him and good depth. Cardinals and going Byron Young. Man, more edge rushers, huh? I mean, I'm a little bit surprised they're not going on the offensive line at the moment. I know they've already done that with Peter Skoronski in the first. Commanders going KJ Henry, a bit early for a guy who doesn't really have too many positive traits physically in terms of his measurables. Browns defensive interior is a need. Jalen Jones for the Niners doesn't really fit what they like, but he's a top 32 player for me. I fell in love with him. He was my corner number 2 at the beginning of the year, and he's still staying around that range. He's just not a flashy player, so we don't really get to see him. Ravens then going Trey Palmer, great value for Trey. San Francisco then going Kayshon Boutte, hopefully to get his attitude in order. San Francisco then also going Kobe Turner. They're going to package these picks, I already know it, or they're going to try to get future picks out of it. Bears then going Zach Pickens. I totally think that's a Bears move. Glad to see him here in day 3 rather than, end of round 2, like some people take him. Texans then going Juice. Why do I want to say Spriggs all the time? Scruggs. He's solid. Just, I don't really think he's that spectacular. Bengals then going Nick Herbig. At this point, that's perfectly fine. Tyjae Spears to the Colts is an excellent addition, and you get to keep a little bit of that tread on the tires. New England Patriots then going Andre Carter. Makes sense, what I used to do for him in the first round at the start of the year. Tyler Steen to the Bills. Veteran piece. I think that's a nice backup to have. Ravens getting Jonathan Mingo. It's kind of surprised to see him fall this far, but, I didn't think he was that spectacular on the field. He's just somebody who could become a lot more in the NFL. Falcons going Tank Bigsby. I just don't really think he offers much more than what you already have. I'd rather go after someone like Keaton Mitchell, who's a bit faster than Tank Bigsby. Cleveland Browns are going Zach Harrison. Good value for him. Jets, Roschon. That's a nice two. He's somebody who has absolutely no ego. Was playing there with Bijan Robinson, now going to be with Breece Hall. And going to help out Aaron Rodgers a little bit more by keeping the ball on the ground. Falcons going Fehoko. I don't know enough about him to make a comment on that. Nick Saldiveri is someone who I have a small crush on. I think he should be a mid to late fourth, so this is a good spot for him. He looked pretty good in some reps there at the Senior Bowl. Jair Brown for the Saints. Solid value. Hickman to the Packers. Another safety. Kind of weird to see that, but good value for him. JL Skinner for the Patriots. We got somebody who's been watching my channel apparently for the Patriots because I think that's a great move. Christopher Smith for the Commanders. Another solid DB right there. Got to run on safeties. Mekhi Blackman for the Vikings. I think that's perfectly fine. He's so hot and cold, very grabby, but not in the way that I'm perfectly okay with. But yeah, I just don't feel comfortable with how hot and cold he is, but definitely a very solid corner. Like if he ends up being a lot more consistent with the high-end plays, he could legitimately be a corner number 1 or 2. And there's not many guys in this class I could say that about after the first 2 rounds. Steelers, Ivan Pace. I had a dream 7-rounder for the Steelers at 120. Ivan Pace was my dream selection, so y'all know how I feel about that. Zach Kuntz, the Jaguars, is absolute dog shit crazy, or batshit crazy, not dog shit. Excuse me. No, it's an amazing move. Excuse me on that one. Zach Kuntz would be awesome there with Doug EP. I'd love that for him. Jacqueline Roy, he just was super mid this year, and that's very disappointing because he was supposed to be a first-round pick. Kendre Miller for the Seahawks, I love that. I love Zach Evans and Kendre Miller. They're both superstars. I love them. Both of them are great. I actually don't love Kendre Miller that much because he really embarrassed my SMU Mustangs, but as a talent, he's great. Just have a little bit of personal vendetta against him. Jalen Duncan to the Ravens would be awesome because I don't like Jalen Duncan, and he's going to my rivals in the Ravens, so it is what it is. Also 124, not awful value. Chargers then going to Marvion Overshone. Getting him there would not be a bad selection at all. Caillou Blue Kelly for the Browns. Extra depth. It is what it is. Jaguars going a guard here. Not going to complain about it either. Should have been Andrew Voorhees, which the Packers, of course, scoop up and steal. Zach Evans, a star running back for the Cowboys. I love that pick for them. He was down the road there at TCU for a hot minute. And then he transferred to Ole Miss and got benched behind Junkins. And understandably so. Junkins is a great running back there for Ole Miss. Bills then going Dwayne McBride. Solid. I think he's a great compliment back. Israel Abanikanda is going to be 20 years old at the draft. I think he'd be a great addition to the Cardinals. Davis Allen. Yeah, I think that's a good addition for the Cardinals or the Panthers as well. Jaden Reed for the Bears. More speed. Not going to complain. Jalen Moreno Cooper. It's a little, or Cropper, excuse me. A little bit early for him, but he's a solid player. Keandre Coburn, another one of my dudes for the Patriots. I don't know who just drafted for the Patriots. I need to check on that. But Riley Moss for the Bears, nice, good depth, and good value. Same thing with Eli Ricks. He just tested very poorly. Raiders going Deuce Vaughn, another one of my dudes. We're having a lot of my guys actually go in this range. Olusegun Oluwatimi, one of my top centers in the draft. I have him top 90, and that was only after a pretty poor performance overall at the Senior Bowl. Jacorian Bennett is good value here. I just don't like seeing him much higher than this. Colby Wooden, he's a good dude, man. He was kind of in the shadow of Derek Hall there. Yasir Abdullah, he did a lot of pressures. There you go, 59 pressures. Crazy rate, but it's just I don't think he's as good as Yaya. But Bryce Ford Wheaton tested out like a monster, giving Aaron Rodgers even more. Speaking of Yaya going to the Bears, they can definitely use the edge help. Mike Morris to the Panthers. I think he tore his pectoral or something. I forget at his pro day, which is very unfortunate. But a very solid player. Byron Young to the Saints. I think they continue building up that defensive interior. I like that. Isaiah Bolden, I don't know enough about him to comment on that. Chase Brown to the Bears. I love that for him. Chase Brown's honestly getting really underrated, which is weird because he was starting to get really overrated midseason. Parker Washington to the Packers fits exactly the mold that they're trying to go after with a slot player, so that is an A-plus selection. Keaton Mitchell to the Commanders. I feel like they have actually, no, that's a pretty good selection. I think he complements Brian Robinson very well. Jose Ramirez, very underrated player, and glad to see that he's getting some respect here in the top 155. Mekhi Garner, kind of mid. Don't think that's a good pick for Detroit. Jacob Slade, don't know enough about him to compliment. And actually, no, I do know Jacob Slade. I think there's two better defensive interiors there for Michigan State. And I know one of them's a young kid, and actually it might have been Jacob Slade. Who's the other one? There's two really good defensive interiors for Michigan State, which made me not like Joe Tippmann for a hot minute there. Jacob Slade might be one of them. The Seattle Seahawks going Carter Warren. It's a developmental tackle piece who's a backup. Niners going Starling Thomas. Excellent value for someone who's a freak athlete. I love Marte Mapu. Glad to see him here to the Chargers. Ravens going DTR. Fits exactly the role that they need him to play. Stetson for the Vikings. It is what it is. I don't really think Stetson's going to be that great up there in the north, but we'll see what happens because, things shrink and Stetson's already pretty small. Detroit Lions going Noah Sewell, pairing him up with his brother. Love that. Giants going Jarrett Patterson. That's good depth right there. I'd rather have Anthony Bradford, which is right here, going to the Texans, which is great. Owen Papo kind of replaces the role of what you just lost there. And speaking of the Giants up here, tripping on his name, Bobby Okereke. So I think that would be a good addition and could potentially start for you. New York Giants going Brandon Joseph. He was a top 5 player for me a couple years ago. So excited to see if he can bounce back. Jackson Kirkland, someone who's also rumored to be a first-round selection at the start of last year's draft process, and he fell off a cliff really quickly. See what happens to him, but Niners scoop up on a falling former star. Then Saints going Jake Haener. A lot of people are saying he's like Drew Brees. Makes sense, but this dude has a hard time throwing a 40-yard ball. I'm going to be honest. I can almost throw a 40-yard ball. I've tested it out. I throw a 37.5-yard deep ball, and I'm 5'9.0". Like, you should, if you're over 6 foot, be able to throw like a 45-yard ball if you're just, giving it everything you have. I'm not a quarterback, and I can throw that. I think that Jake Haener should. That's a big negative for me for Jake, because I love Jake in all other aspects. Clayton Tune, we're seeing a run on QBs. I don't think Clayton Tune offers much more than what is there with Shane Buechele. Rams going Xavier Hutchinson. More weapons for the Rams. Interesting. Titans going Ronnie Bell. I think it's a little bit early for him. Antonio Mafi for the Cowboys is great. Nick Broker for the Jets. It is what it is. Lonnie Phelps for the Rams. Good selection. Just has smaller arms. I love Lonnie, though. DJ Johnson. It's all right for the Giants. Broderick Martin. He's a solid interior. Yeah, poor man's Jordan Davis. There we go. I think that's exactly the right thing to say. And the Eagles are actually looking at Broderick Martin, too. They brought him in for a top 30. Braden Daniels, solid at this point. Kentrell Clark, he's okay. Jordan McFadden, good depth piece right there. Nick Hampton. Like, the thing is, in round 5 of last year, you're seeing guys who could potentially start. Now I'm getting genuinely concerned about these guys even making rosters. Jalen Redmond's excellent. Ventrell Miller, speaking of, I think that all these guys could actually play legitimate roles, except Will Mallory. I love Josh Wiley. Servassier Dennis is honestly super underrated, but this might be the earliest I would take him. He's a good pass rusher. Raheem Jarrett is a speed freak, should have been a lot better. I don't know what happened there at Maryland. HTT, finally, something that I didn't like that the Patriots took. Jaguars, Daniel Scott, he's okay. BJ Thompson, I didn't really see him pop off at SFA because they come here quite often to SMU. I didn't really see him pop off. And same thing with Quindell Johnson. I didn't like Quindell, so we're seeing that. I saw Quindell in person this past year at this bowl game, and definitely not someone who I was a huge fan of. Jake Andrews out of Troy, he's all right. Aiden O'Connell is someone who I think could actually be an NFL starter, so the Rams get their potential future starter there. That's great. Sean Tucker could potentially make his way into that starting rotation there for the Browns, which he should not be there. Kayvon Merriweather, he's okay. Jared Clark, someone who I absolutely love, so we're back on track with the Patriots, drafting my favorite players. Should be going earlier than this. Dontavian Wicks, he's just all right. McClendon Curtis, he's a depth piece. Denver Broncos getting Eric Gray, another one of my former favorite players. Ryan Hayes is pretty mid. Dante Stills, probably not going to make the roster, but love him and his brother. They're from West Virginia. Jason Taylor the second. We'll see if he sticks to a roster, but I like Oklahoma State DBs later on because usually they have a lot of experience or have guys around them with plenty of it. O'Shawn Mathis, formerly from TCU, solid depth piece. Kenny McIntosh ran a 4.6, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Trey Dean, he's a physical freak, so I like to see him there at the Texans. Cam Jones for Jacksonville. I like Cam Jones a lot. He was one of my first week 1 standouts, so good to see that. Troy Brown, don't know enough to comment on that. Charlie Jones, a good depth piece there out of Purdue. Thomas Incoom, he's a pressure freak. Don't think he was honestly that good, though. I was actually quite surprised that the numbers were not really reflecting his game. Tyler Lacey's a fat ass. Jonah Tavai, he's all right. Chamari Connor, also kind of all right. Dylan Horton, pretty solid player, underrated. Ricky Stromberg at this point is very, very solid value. Going to the Patriots again. Terrell Smith, Puka Nacua is one of my favorite players in the draft. Going to the Cowboys kind of sucks because he's probably going to be wide receiver 6. Caleb Murphy, don't know enough about him. Deshaun Johnson, don't know enough about him either. Love Payne Durham. Brenton Cox, he's a really good player, just inconsistencies and potential personality concerns, which sounds a lot, honestly, like Kayshon Boutte, which they selected for the Niners earlier. Drill Shami, didn't even know he was coming out in this draft, but 6'4", 260, you're kind of the on-sale version of Isaiah Foskey. Chicago Bears and going Jay Ward. And Evan Hull is someone who I absolutely adore. Going to the Eagles, that'd be a good addition. Matt Landers for the Raiders. That's a good, fast depth piece, man. He's tall, too. Warren McClendon, good right tackle depth as well. The Raiders are actually doing a pretty solid job here. Cam Latu, speaking of, someone who is taken very high, Julius Brents. We talked about Cam Latu here in round number 7. So it is what it is. Grant Dubose is okay. Don't know if he sticks to a roster. Charlie Thomas is a weird linebacker safety hybrid. So another safety for the Falcons, pretty much. Anthony Johnson, it's 225. It's okay. Jake Bobo, he's okay. We're at the point where I'm not very passionate about a lot of these players. Orgy's very solid. I think he'll go a lot earlier than this. Jake Moody, first kicker off the board. He'll probably go earlier as well. Malik Cunningham is like 180 pounds. He's going to be UDFA, and I've seen Malik over a long period of time. He was one of my first scouting reports I ever wrote for a professional site. Texans going Elijah Higgins. He's going to be a tight end transfer. This dude's absolute butt cheeks. Las Vegas Raiders and going Javarius Owens. Don't know enough about him. Didn't really pop off when I watched Houston in person. Rashad Torrance, solid enough. Ali Gay, it's good value at this point. Trevor Reed, same thing with him. I don't know enough about Brett, but USC's offensive line was honestly not too shabby. Not going to be totally against him here at 235. Tywin Mullen just has not been available enough. Asim Richards is a good pick here for Seattle. Cam Brown, it's Ohio State, so you already know he has that pedigree. Keaton Thompson. Man, these Los Angeles teams are loading up on wide receiver. Darrell Luther, he's solid. Nothing crazy. Mikael Jones, I think that's such a Steelers pick, but he's somebody who probably won't make a roster, but had a lot of hope for Mikael. He's actually a really good stat monster. I hope that he actually makes a roster and plays well. MJ Anderson, someone who I like a lot to the Packers, good addition. Mo Ibrahim, good backup there. He's somebody when healthy, could be a really big addition. Kicker, Dante Demas, kind of mid. Justin Shorter to the Bengals, swap these two, and the Patriots are back on track. Justin Shorter is one of the loves of my life. Chris Rodriguez for the Niners. It makes sense. Jake Witt out of Northern Michigan. Don't know enough about him. Aubrey Miller, solid linebacker there for the Chiefs. Uchenna, I'm not going to say that last one. He's solid. I haven't studied him enough, but in the game tape I have saying he's one of those guys who does pop off here and there. Tavius Robinson, I do like him, so nice to see he's on the Steelers. Andre Asovius, man, I screwed up that last name. I already know. But the pentathlon athlete out of Princeton, good depth piece there for Tampa. Isaiah Land, probably should have went earlier, but Niners are killing it. Jaron Hall, he's my lowest graded player I've ever studied. DeMarco Helms, don't even know about him, if I'm going to be honest with you. Mo Diabate, he was very underwhelming, but at this point, good value. Habakkuk Baldonado, another guy, good value. Hunter, also one of the best fullbacks to come out of the draft. And then DJ Dale. Honestly, these guys are better than probably the rest of the round. But that's going to be the video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Wow, it's been a lot of talking. And I have an interview in 30 minutes. Holy shit. Wish me luck on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on the far side. Peace.